Labor Day is upon us. Millions of Americans are trying to squeeze out the last moments of summer fun. Some are hitting the road to get out of Dodge and enjoy that nice, long holiday weekend. Or you're one of the unlucky ones who has to navigate one of Joe Biden's hellish airports. I wish you good luck. The FAA is warning it's going to be one of the busiest holiday weekends of the year. More than 3,000 flights delayed already today. And the people are acting as insane as ever. A guy freaking out over the overhead storage bin and getting himself kicked off a flight. He was repeatedly complaining about another dude stashing too many bags in his overhead bin space. And who can forget the axe-wielding pilot who went berserk on a parking gate arm, giving it a good 23 whacks until cops arrested him. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg trying to act like he's on top of all the flight chaos, but just wound up blaming the usual suspects for his incompetence. Listen.
Not only are we seeing the system rebound from the worst effects of COVID, but we're seeing things come more in line with what we would have regarded as normal. Now, that doesn't mean that the system was immune from some tough travel days this year and this summer. Most of the rough days that we did see this year had to do with storms that affected hubs, which then had cascading effects.
But we all know how Hard Hat Pete, not really focused on solving Americans' flight problems. It's because he's too busy working on transportation equity. Buttigieg is appointing a group of leading experts to advise him how all cars should be phased out because they could cause climate change and promote racism. Okay, Judge Janine. Mayor Pete, Hard Hat Pete, as we like to call him, does he seem concerned to you about the worst travel day of the year?
No, his main concern right now is making sure that we don't find out about his own private flights because he doesn't take the planes that we're all taking. And by the way, here is a study here. If emissions of greenhouse gases were stopped, would the climate return to the conditions of 200 years ago? The answer is no. I'll put that away. Now, transportation equity. Transportation equity. I looked it up. Do you know what it is?
I don't.
Okay. It seeks fairness in mobility and accessibility to meet the needs of all community members. Okay? So that means you've got to be accessible to everybody. I think most roads are, and I think most buildings are, and most sidewalks, most courthouses, most department stores are. So then I went to the next definition. Now, they say cars are bad. So I said to myself, why are cars bad?
Yes.
And according to them, the invention of the automobile created government housing opportunities because they gave loans to white veterans, which led to the creation of suburban housing and created white flight to the suburbs to achieve the American dream. None of this makes any sense to me. Here's the bottom line. Pete Buttigieg ought to learn how to run the Department of Transportation, stop blaming COVID and equity and all this other nonsense, and stop paying people $100 you missed your flight. No, go to the underlying reason. And the reason people are nuts, and I've been flying most weekends for the past few months, people are nuts. They don't want you in their bin above their seat, and they don't want you in their area, you know, using the bathroom. People are crazy.
It's not your bin area, though. That area could belong to anybody. At least that's what the flight attendants told me, Richard. Richard, while we have you here, what is transportation equity?
Look, I'm not sure.
Here, it's right here.
Have at it. I could give some historical context to what the judge is talking about, and she's talking about the creation of the GI Bill. And when the GI Bill was created, black veterans were not allowed to apply for the GI Bill. They weren't allowed to get loans. They had to live in redline communities. As a result of that, they weren't able to benefit from other programs that other parts of our community were able to benefit from. Now, that being said, I don't think that has any impact with what's happening with flight delays, right? I think that the Transportation Secretary has enough people that work at the Department of Transportation to focus on that and also deal with what's happening with flights. A couple weeks ago, I visited the control tower at DCA, Reagan National Airport.
Nice.
And I got a chance to talk to some air traffic controllers about what's actually the issue. And what they will tell you is we're short-staffed. And you can't just hire an air traffic controller today and expect them to let planes take off and land tomorrow. It takes months and months of training to get these people prepared to control planes. The same goes for pilots. We have a shortage in pilots. I don't want anybody flying my plane that got a pilot license yesterday. You need some training to this. So to get to the point where we are, where our flights can get back to running in normal, we have to train staff and we have to get them in the right places. And with that being said, when you see what these folks do every day, they are unsung heroes. The fact that in the entire world, America has the safest aviation system, and it's all because of those folks sitting in the air traffic control towers that you never hear of, you never speak to them, but they're the folks that keep your planes going, landing, and we owe them a debt of gratitude.
So was that terrifying to see, or did you come away with more confidence or less confidence?
It was terrifying to see because how fast they're moving, but it was also remarkable to see how fast they were moving and how many planes they were moving at the same time, landing and taking off absolutely at the same time. It was remarkable.
Charlie, we've had personnel issues in the flight industry since the pandemic's been over. This is almost 3 years now. Mayor Pete's been in charge for a while. Has he done anything to maybe speed up the process of the hiring and the training?
No, of course not, because he's so focused on transportation equity, whatever that is, and they're still blaming COVID, and they're still blaming global warming, I guess, and racism, obviously. And this is what you literally cannot let these people be in charge of anything that is serious, anything that actually has consequences that people can get hurt doing or not doing. You can't let them, because their focus is not on a successful mission. Look what they're doing to the military. They have no concept of what a successful mission is. They're just trying to fill these boxes and play this weird political game of charades that has absolutely nothing to do with what the airline is there to do for us.
I mean, he wants to be a diversity officer, Mayor Pete.
Right.
If he wants to do that, he can do that, but maybe Transportation Secretary, not his thing.
Well, I think he's going to solve it because he has a new committee that he has revived for it's called the Advisory Committee on Transportation Equity. President Obama, this is a Obama-era project, so again, Obama's third term. Here we are.
They didn't fix it during the Obama administration?
They did not. Donald Trump got rid of it because it was a complete waste of time. But there are 24 new members on this, and one of the women, who is a spatial policy scholar, we need 24 committee members to solve this problem, apparently. She is saying that all cars are bad and that we need to create streets that are inclusive of people, not cars. And it's like, okay, so you've made cars way too expensive for Americans to own, regular cars. Used cars are still expensive. Then you want to force them to buy electric cars, which nobody can afford, that these companies are going to go bankrupt making. And now you're saying we just should get rid of cars completely so that people have no freedom or autonomy to go travel about the country. So I'm glad that our taxpayer dollars are being used for a new committee, and I'm sure that he will be spending his time with these 24 people, and they will just fix it right away.
It sounds like
everything will be just fine.
More sidewalks. Is that what she wants?
Apparently, yes.
But it kind of defeats the purpose. The whole purpose of having a street is for cars.
Right. Well,
and one of the first things you teach your children is don't walk in the street.
Yes.
Because that's where to make a street more inclusive of
but there could be buses on that street. There could be multimodal forms of transportation.
Even more important that you don't make it inclusive of humans.
Or we could walkable neighborhood.
You're going to get them run over.
I know what it is, Charlie. Bike paths.
Great.
It's bike paths. It's always the bike paths, Richard.
Cars equal freedom.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.